transport of Sinaloa. Cartel regional boss, scheduled Friday morning. 217-mile route through rural Arizona. Intelligence confirms cartel planning military-style ambush to free prisoner. Intercepted communications reveal 23 armed operatives already positioned along highway corridor, equipped with automatic weapons, vehicle-disabling devices, and tactical gear. Ambush point identified. Mile marker 147. Isolated stretch with minimal cell coverage and 30-minute response time for backup. Transport convoy consists of 3 vehicles and 8 deputy marshals. Civilian traffic on highway during ambush window estimated at 40 to 60 vehicles per hour. If ambush proceeds, highway becomes war zone. Marshals outgunned, civilians caught in crossfire. Cartel boss freed to resume operations responsible for 400 documented murders. Marshals Service has 48 hours to neutralize ambush team and secure transport before Friday departure. The prisoner had controlled Sinaloa Cartel operations across Arizona, New Mexico, and southern Nevada for 11 years. His organization moved an estimated $800 million in narcotics across the border annually. They controlled distribution networks in Phoenix, Tucson, Albuquerque, and Las Vegas. They eliminated competition through violence so systematic that rival organizations simply abandoned territories rather than fight. The body count attributed to his leadership exceeded 400 confirmed deaths. These included rival traffickers executed in territorial disputes, informants murdered to maintain organizational security, and civilians killed because they witnessed activities they should not have seen. Entire families had been eliminated to send messages. Bodies had been displayed publicly to intimidate communities. The violence was not incidental to his business model. It was central to it. Federal investigators had pursued him for 8 years before finally developing sufficient evidence for prosecution. The breakthrough came through a combination of electronic surveillance, cooperating witnesses, and financial forensics that traced drug proceeds through a maze of shell companies and cryptocurrency transactions. The indictment included 47 counts spanning narcotics trafficking, money laundering, murder conspiracy, and continuing criminal enterprise charges that carried potential sentences exceeding multiple life terms. The arrest had been dramatic. Federal agents surrounded a ranch outside Tucson where the cartel boss had been meeting with regional lieutenants. After a 3-hour standoff, he surrendered without violence, reportedly telling his associates that he would be free within a year. His confidence was not entirely misplaced. His organization had successfully freed captured members before, using methods ranging from bribery to violence. The prisoner had been held in a federal detention facility in Phoenix for 14 months awaiting trial. Security protocols were extraordinary. He was housed in administrative segregation, isolated from other inmates who might be coerced into assisting escape. His communications were monitored continuously. His visitors were limited to attorneys who had been vetted by multiple agencies. Every precaution available under federal regulations had been implemented. The trial was scheduled to begin in Tucson, requiring transport of the prisoner from Phoenix to the federal courthouse. The route covered 217 miles through terrain that ranged from urban sprawl to isolated desert highway. The transport was scheduled for Friday morning, early enough to complete the journey before the intense afternoon heat that made desert operations challenging. Intelligence suggesting an ambush attempt had been developing for weeks. The FBI's Organized Crime Unit had detected increased encrypted communications between cartel cells across Arizona. Surveillance of known cartel associates showed unusual movement patterns, with individuals traveling from Mexico and California to positions along the Phoenix-Tucson corridor. Financial analysis revealed large cash withdrawals from cartel-connected accounts, consistent with preparation for a major operation. The specific intelligence confirming the ambush came from a source inside the cartel's Arizona operations. This source, whose identity was known to fewer than 5 federal officials, reported that the organization had committed massive resources to freeing their leader. 23 operatives had been assembled, drawn from the cartel's most experienced and violent enforcers. They had been equipped with automatic weapons, including AK-47 variants and AR-15 platforms modified for fully automatic fire. They possessed spike strips and explosive devices designed to disable vehicles. They had body armor, communications equipment, and medical supplies for treating wounded during the operation. The ambush plan was sophisticated, reflecting military-grade tactical thinking. The primary strike point was mile marker 147, a stretch of highway passing through uninhabited desert with no structures, minimal cell coverage, and terrain features that would channel the transport convoy into a kill zone. A secondary team would position north to intercept any responding law enforcement. A third team would wait at an extraction point with vehicles to transport the freed prisoner across the border into Mexico, where cartel-controlled territory would provide sanctuary. The source provided additional details that made clear the operation's scale. The cartel had conducted reconnaissance of the route over several weeks, documenting response times for local law enforcement and identifying communication dead zones. They had rehearsed the ambush at a remote location in Sonora, using similar vehicles and terrain. They had contingency plans for various scenarios, including the transport taking alternate routes or traveling with additional security. The timeline was fixed by the court schedule. The prisoner had to appear in Tucson federal court on Friday for a hearing that could not be postponed without alerting the defense to security concerns. The transport had to occur. The only question was whether it would occur on the cartel's terms or on the terms of federal law enforcement. The U.S. Marshals Service, responsible for federal prisoner transport, faced a strategic challenge with no perfect solution. Canceling the transport would postpone the trial indefinitely and signal to the cartel that their tactics had succeeded. Changing the route significantly was impractical given the geography of southern Arizona, where alternative highways added hours to the journey and presented their own vulnerabilities. Adding visible security to the convoy might deter the ambush but could also trigger an escalation. With the cartel committing additional resources to overcome enhanced defenses, the decision was made to proceed with the transport while simultaneously neutralizing the ambush team before they could act. This required identifying and locating all 23 operatives, confirming their positions along the highway, and arresting them in coordinated operations that would prevent any from alerting others or attacking the convoy independently. The operation was planned over 72 hours with participation from the Marshals Service, FBI, DEA, Arizona Department of Public Safety, and local sheriff's departments across 3 counties. Each agency contributed personnel, equipment, and intelligence resources. The coordination challenges were immense. Any leak could compromise the operation. Any premature action could trigger the ambush before the transport was ready. Surveillance teams were deployed along the highway corridor to identify ambush positions. Using aircraft, ground vehicles, and remote cameras, investigators mapped the locations where cartel operatives had established themselves. The primary ambush team, 12 individuals, was found in a desert wash approximately 300 meters from mile marker 147. They had dug fighting positions concealed from the highway. with clear lines of fire on approaching vehicles. Their equipment cache included rifles, ammunition, grenades, and a vehicle-mounted machine gun that could destroy the transport vehicles within seconds. The secondary team, 7 operatives, was positioned 8 miles north at a location where the highway passed through a narrow canyon. Their role was to intercept any law enforcement response, buying time for the primary team to complete the extraction. They carried similar weaponry and had positioned vehicles to block the highway in both directions. The extraction team, 4 operatives, waited at a ranch 15 miles east of the highway. This property, owned through a series of shell companies traced to cartel finances, contained vehicles equipped for off-road travel, additional weapons, and supplies for a rapid journey to the border. The prisoner would be transferred here before being driven south through desert terrain that law enforcement rarely patrolled. Arrest operations were scheduled for Thursday evening, approximately 12 hours before the transport. The timing was deliberate, early enough to ensure all operatives were in custody before the convoy departed, late enough to prevent the cartel from learning of the arrests and deploying replacement teams. The operations would be simultaneous across all 3 locations, preventing any communication between teams that might warn others. Thursday, 6 p.m. Final briefings were conducted at 3 staging locations across southern Arizona. Each team received detailed intelligence about their target location, including the number of operatives, their weapons, their positions, and their likely responses to law enforcement action. Rules of engagement were established. The goal was arrest, not elimination, but officers were authorized to use lethal force if operatives resisted with weapons. The primary target, the ambush team at mile marker 147, presented the greatest challenge. 12 heavily armed individuals in prepared defensive positions could inflict significant casualties on approaching law enforcement. The terrain provided limited cover for officers attempting to close distance. A direct assault risked exactly the kind of violent confrontation that the operation sought to prevent. The tactical plan involved a combination of surprise and overwhelming force. Helicopters would approach from multiple directions simultaneously, deploying officers to positions that surrounded the ambush site. Ground vehicles would block escape routes. The cartel operatives would find themselves encircled before they understood what was happening. Surrender would be demanded through loudspeakers in Spanish and English. If resistance occurred, snipers positioned on elevated terrain would engage. Thursday, 8:47 p.m. The sun had set, and darkness was settling over the desert. The operations launched simultaneously. At mile marker 147, 4 helicopters converged on the ambush position from different directions. Their approach had been masked by terrain until the final moments, giving the cartel operatives almost no warning. Spotlights illuminated the wash where they had dug their positions. Loudspeakers demanded immediate surrender. Officers rappelled from helicopters, while ground vehicles sealed the perimeter. The cartel operatives, for all their preparation, had not anticipated being attacked. Rather than attacking, several reached for weapons, but found themselves targeted by multiple officers before they could aim. 3 attempted to flee into the desert and were apprehended within minutes by officers with night vision equipment. 2 opened fire and were shot, 1 fatally, the other wounded, and subsequently taken into custody. The remaining 7 surrendered without resistance once they understood the hopelessness of their position. The operation at the primary site was complete within 11 minutes. 12 operatives, now 11 living and 1 dead, were in federal custody. or en route to medical facilities. Seized evidence included 14 automatic weapons, over 2,000 rounds of ammunition, 6 grenades, explosive devices, and the vehicle-mounted machine gun that would have been capable of destroying the transport convoy. At the secondary site in the canyon, the operation proceeded with similar efficiency. The 7 operatives there had received no warning from their colleagues, the assault having occurred too quickly for any communication. Helicopters approached through the canyon using terrain masking until they were directly overhead. Ground vehicles blocked both ends of the highway section. The operatives, caught in their vehicles rather than defensive positions, surrendered within 4 minutes. 7 arrests, no shots fired. 7 additional automatic weapons seized. At the extraction ranch, the 4 operatives were taken by surprise as tactical teams breached multiple entry points simultaneously. One operative attempted to reach a weapon and was subdued with non-lethal force. The other 3 offered no resistance. The vehicles intended for the prisoner's escape were seized, along with documentation that would prove valuable in prosecuting the broader conspiracy. By 9:30 p.m. Thursday, all 23 cartel operatives were in federal custody. The ambush had been neutralized before it could begin. The highway that would have become a war zone remained peaceful, with civilian motorists passing mile marker 147 without knowing what had nearly occurred there. The transport proceeded Friday morning as scheduled. The convoy departed Phoenix at 5:30 a.m., traveling south on Interstate 10 before transitioning to the highways leading to Tucson. The route passed mile marker 147 at approximately 7:15 a.m. The wash, where 12 men had prepared to kill, was empty, marked only by disturbed earth that would puzzle hikers for years to come. The prisoner arrived at the Tucson Federal Courthouse at 8:45 a.m. in time for his scheduled hearing. He said nothing during the transport, but officers noted that he seemed to be waiting for something that never happened. The confident prediction that he would be free within a year was beginning to seem less certain. News of the arrests broke Friday afternoon. Federal prosecutors announced the disruption of a planned ambush intended to free a major cartel figure. 22 individuals faced federal charges, including conspiracy to commit murder of federal officers, weapons violations, and obstruction of justice. The scale of the planned operation shocked even observers familiar with cartel violence. This had been a military-style assault planned against federal law enforcement on American soil. The trial proceeded over the following months. The cartel boss, deprived of the dramatic rescue that his organization had planned, faced the evidence that federal prosecutors had assembled over 8 years. Cooperating witnesses testified about his role in ordering murders. Financial records documented the millions he had laundered. Electronic surveillance captured conversations in which he discussed operations with brutal frankness. The conviction was unanimous on all 47 counts. The sentence was multiple consecutive life terms without possibility of parole. The prisoner, who had confidently predicted freedom within a year, would die in federal custody, his organization decapitated, his ambush team imprisoned alongside him. What was prevented? A military-style ambush by 23 cartel operatives was neutralized before the transport convoy entered the kill zone. 8 deputy marshals were protected from an assault that would have left them outgunned and outmaneuvered. 40 to 60 civilian vehicles that would have been on the highway during the ambush window were spared from becoming collateral damage in a firefight involving automatic weapons and explosives. A cartel boss responsible for 400 documented murders remained in federal custody. rather than escaping to resume operations. If the marshals had failed to detect the ambush plan, the transport convoy would have driven into a prepared kill zone with no awareness of the threat. The vehicle-mounted machine gun would have disabled the lead vehicle within seconds. Automatic weapons fire from 12 positions would have overwhelmed the 8 deputies before they could effectively respond. The cartel operatives had rehearsed this scenario. They knew exactly how long it would take to extract their leader from a disabled transport vehicle. They knew exactly how long they had before law enforcement backup could arrive. They had planned for success. Instead, the operatives found themselves surrounded in the darkness, their ambush positions becoming traps rather than advantages. The sophisticated plan developed over months was undone in 11 minutes. The weapons accumulated at such cost became evidence in prosecutions that would add decades to sentences. The confidence that the cartel could operate with impunity on American soil was shattered. The highway at mile marker 147 carries traffic today, as it always has. Commuters pass without knowing that a battle was planned for that location, that fighting positions were dug within sight of the asphalt, that men with automatic weapons waited in the desert for a convoy that never arrived unprotected. The ordinary flow of American life continues because federal agents disrupted an extraordinary threat before it could manifest. The cartel has not attempted another ambush of this scale. The arrests demonstrated that federal intelligence penetrated their planning, that their communications were monitored, that their operatives could be identified and located. The cost of the failed operation exceeded merely the loss of 23 soldiers. It included the revelation that the organization was compromised in ways they had not understood. The prisoner remains in a supermax facility in Colorado, his contact with the outside world limited to monitored communications that could never coordinate another rescue attempt. His empire in Arizona has fractured, with lieutenants fighting over territory he once controlled absolutely. The 400 murders he ordered achieved nothing lasting. The organization he built is consuming itself. 48 hours. That was the window between confirmed intelligence and the scheduled transport. 48 hours to plan operations across 3 locations, coordinate multiple federal and state agencies, position surveillance and tactical teams, and execute simultaneous arrests that left the cartel no opportunity to warn their operatives or adjust their plans. 48 hours to prevent a massacre on an American highway. The convoy passed mile marker 147 without incident on a Friday morning. 8 deputies completed a transport they had trained for, but hoped never to experience under fire. Civilian motorists continued their journeys unaware of the violence that had been planned for the road they traveled. A cartel boss arrived at court to face the justice he had evaded for 11 years. 48 hours. That was all the time they had, and that was all the time they needed.